What if the real story behind BTS's new album isn't just about the music, but about a quiet, creative tension between the leader and the member often described as the emotional core of the group? What if, when RM spoke about the album's creative process, he wasn't just explaining production details, but subtly revealing how deeply Jimin influenced the direction of the project? Fans initially thought it was just another interview, just another behind-the-scenes breakdown. But hidden inside RM's words were clues about leadership dynamics, artistic negotiation, and a partnership that may have shaped this album more than we realized. And by the end of this video, we're going to break down whether this new album represents a shift in creative power inside BTS, or the strongest proof yet of how RM and Jimin function as a dynamic creative force. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're an ARMY who loves deep analysis about BTS, creative processes, and the subtle dynamics that shape their music, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. On this channel, we go beyond headlines and look at the bigger picture without unnecessary drama. Now, let's get into it. Recently, RM spoke in multiple interviews and media appearances about the creative process behind BTS's upcoming album. His comments were widely shared across Korean platforms like Naver and Daum, as well as global outlets covering K-pop and the broader music industry. As the leader of BTS, RM has long been recognized as the central creative architect of the group's conceptual direction. He's known for shaping themes, guiding lyrical narratives, and translating personal experiences into universal messages. But this time, something felt different. While discussing the album's development, RM repeatedly mentioned Jimin, not just as a vocalist or performer, but as someone deeply involved in emotional calibration and tonal decisions. That alone sparked massive discussion across fandom spaces. Traditionally, RM is viewed as the intellectual center of BTS, while Jimin is often described as the emotional translator, the member who embodies vulnerability and performance intensity. The idea that their roles were intersecting more closely than ever immediately caught fans' attention. Let's break down what actually happened. In one interview segment, RM described the album as emotionally layered and dynamically unstable in a good way. He explained that during the early demo stages, there were multiple versions of tracks that felt too safe or too predictable. Then he revealed that Jimin challenged certain vocal structures, suggesting changes that would make the emotional build more dramatic. That single comment triggered waves of online conversation. Was Jimin influencing composition? Was he participating in arrangement discussions? Or was RM simply highlighting collaborative brainstorming? According to several Korean entertainment reports, the new album went through multiple revisions before final mastering. Producers hinted that internal discussions were intense but productive. Fans began connecting the dots. Jimin has previously expressed his desire to explore vulnerability and fragility in music. In past projects, including his solo releases, he demonstrated a strong preference for emotional storytelling and layered vocal textures. So when RM emphasized that the album needed raw edges instead of polish, many ARMYs speculated that Jimin's artistic philosophy influenced that direction.
But wait, what's even more interesting is how RM described the studio atmosphere. He talked about late-night sessions where conversations shifted from technical production details to philosophical debates about what BTS represents at this stage in their career. And here's the detail that many casual viewers overlooked. RM said that Jimin often asked, "Does this feel honest?" instead of, "Does this sound good?" That question reframes everything. In creative leadership, the difference between technical perfection and emotional authenticity can define an entire album. Now, let's talk about fan reactions. On Twitter, Weverse, and Korean online communities, fans praised what they called a dual-axis leadership. Some described RM as the structural leader and Jimin as the emotional co-pilot. Others revisited older interviews where RM acknowledged Jimin's sensitivity and how it influenced group morale. In previous album eras, RM once mentioned that Jimin tends to internalize criticism deeply, which pushes him to refine performances obsessively. This time, however, that sensitivity appears to have become a strength inside the creative room. But here's where things get layered. Rumors circulated that there were creative disagreements during the early production stages, not conflict in a negative sense, but intense artistic debates. Korean media insiders suggested that certain tracks were reworked because emotional direction did not align at first. Although no official source framed it as tension, fans speculated about creative friction between strong personalities. And honestly, creative friction isn't necessarily bad. In fact, some of the most iconic albums in music history were shaped by internal debate. RM, known for his analytical lyricism and structured approach, and Jimin, known for intuitive emotional interpretation, represent two different but complementary creative instincts. When RM mentioned trusting Jimin's instinct in final vocal takes, it signaled something important. It suggested that leadership inside BTS is no longer purely hierarchical, but fluid. But wait, the part that hasn't been discussed enough is their body language during joint appearances. In recent behind-the-scenes clips, RM often turns toward Jimin when discussing emotional tone. Jimin nods subtly before speaking, and RM listens closely. These micro-interactions reinforce the idea that Jimin's input isn't symbolic, it's operational. Let's zoom out historically. Since BTS debuted in 2013, RM has carried the weight of public leadership. He navigated interviews, controversies, and international stages. Jimin, meanwhile, evolved from being labeled overly self-critical to becoming one of the group's most emotionally articulate voices. Over the years, we've seen a shift. In early eras, Jimin frequently sought reassurance. In later eras, he began asserting artistic preferences more confidently. This new album appears to reflect that evolution. RM openly acknowledging Jimin's role in shaping emotional pacing marks a significant milestone. It's not just about songwriting credits, it's about influence. And influence within a group dynamic speaks volumes about trust. Now, let's analyze the creative implications. When a leader like RM shares creative authority, it doesn't weaken leadership, it strengthens it. It creates multi-dimensional direction. The album reportedly balances introspective lyricism with dynamic vocal climaxes. That combination feels almost symbolic of RM and Jimin's creative interplay. Structure meets sensation. Logic meets vulnerability.
Fans noticed. Many ARMYs commented that teaser snippets feel both grounded and emotionally volatile. Some even described it as RM's mind filtered through Jimin's heart. But here's the twist. In another interview segment, RM clarified that he no longer sees himself as the sole creative driver. He emphasized collective growth and shared responsibility. That statement counters long-standing narratives that position him as the singular architect. Instead, it frames BTS as a matured creative democracy. And that brings us to a deeper perspective. Leadership evolves. In early BTS years, RM's role was protective and directive. Now, according to his own words, it feels collaborative and reflective. Jimin's growth parallels that shift, from perfection-driven performer to emotionally assertive contributor. This dynamic synergy could explain why anticipation for the album feels different this time. It's not just about sound, it's about internal evolution. Now let's reach the emotional peak of this discussion. In a recent studio clip, Jimin expressed gratitude toward RM for always translating complex thoughts into words the team can understand. RM responded by saying that Jimin helps him remember why the music needs to feel human. That exchange might seem simple, but symbolically it dismantles rumors of imbalance or internal hierarchy struggles. Instead, it reveals mutual reliance. RM grounds ideas. Jimin tests their emotional truth. Together, they refine the final product. So, is this album proof of shifting power dynamics inside BTS? Or is it proof of something even stronger, a leadership model built on trust and shared growth? When RM talks about the creative process and repeatedly brings up Jimin's influence, it's not accidental. It reflects a working relationship forged over more than a decade. It reflects countless rehearsals, disagreements, refinements, and breakthroughs. Most importantly, it reflects respect. So, now I want to ask you, do you think RM highlighting Jimin's influence signals a new era in BTS's creative structure? Or do you see it as a natural evolution of teamwork that has always existed behind the scenes? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this deep dive into RM and Jimin's creative dynamic and want more analysis about BTS's artistic process, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. In our next video, we'll explore how this collaborative shift could impact the album's commercial reception and global critical response. Because in BTS, music is never just music. It's narrative, it's identity, and sometimes it's a quiet conversation between a leader and the emotional heartbeat of the group. See you in the next video.